Good evening and welcome to the second edition of the 2023-2024 Bowl Mania with yours truly, Jackson Johnson, and my good friend right beside me, the host of Sports Talk with Austin, Austin Williams. How you doing tonight, Austin?
Doing pretty good, Jackson. Had a good day of first day of bowl games. We saw a lot of fun games, and I can't wait to talk about the second round of the non-New Year's Six and playoff games. There's some more fun bowls to discuss, and can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun. You know, it's holiday season and Christmas time and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day when we see all these bowl games like the Citrus Bowl and the Alamo Bowl and amongst the bowls tonight. And here we start off with the day after Christmas. Man, Burl Ives should have written a song about the bowl games being a holly jolly season right there. I mean, I know he had that song Holly Jolly Christmas, but Holly Jolly Bowl season continuing with the Quick Lane Bowl between the Minnesota Golden Gophers and the Bowling Green Falcons.
Yeah, this should be a very interesting game. I mean, Minnesota, they're 5-7. They got in because their APR, despite the dreadful season that a lot of Minnesota fans thought that they had. But you look at Bowling Green, look at some of the competition they played this year. They hung tough with Michigan for a while. They almost, had that game in their hands until the third and fourth quarter, and then Michigan was like, Bowling Green, we're giving you too much confidence. Let's smack you around. But this will be interesting. This is one I've debated on a lot, especially since Minnesota's been so up and down this year. They barely won against Nebraska. They got lucky against Iowa. The whole fair catch rule. That right there, Minnesota could be 4-8 if Cooper DeJean and that whole fair catch rule wasn't as debated as it was. Minnesota could be 4-8. They could even be 3-9, possibly, with the way their season's gone. Bowling Green, like we've said, they played some really good teams, but they've been able to put it together. And they beat Georgia Tech this year, which is a landmark win for them. I think in this game here in the Quick Lane Bowl, I think it's going to be very interesting. Minnesota is currently a 1.5-point favorite by the looks of it. Should be 3.5-point favorites. That's very interesting. I guess Vegas, has Minnesota favored because they are a Power 5 team and they play in the better conference. But I think I'm going to take my chances. I don't trust Minnesota's offense. Their defense has been up and down so many times this year. I'm going to take Bowling Green to pull off an upset. I'm taking Bowling Green 24-21 over the Golden Gophers. What about you, good buddy?
Austin, I just got one thing to say. Not so fast, my friend. I'm going with those Golden Gophers 24-17. They're going to end the season at 6-7. That's what's going to happen. Maybe that can build some momentum for 2024, but it's going to be something for Minnesota.
Sure will be, and maybe it'll save PJ Fleck's job. Who knows?
Oh, for sure. But we know Coach Blame Green has had his job saved at Rice because he led Rice to a second straight bowl appearance this season as they go against the Texas State Bobcats in the Serve Pro First Responder Bowl. What's your take on it, Austin?
And Texas State is a 4-point favorite, so almost another pick'em game, except they're giving Texas State a 1-point advantage. This is very interesting because Rice, a lot of people make fun of them because they're food, but Rice has actually been a pretty decent football team this year. If you look at it, they had that incredible win against Houston. After Houston beat UTSA, Rice put the smack it down on on Houston, and then Rice kind of took a little dip off, and then JT Daniels got hurt, and their quarterback production went down. Texas State, they've been kind of staying of float as well. They had a really close call against Troy, almost won that game, but couldn't pull it out. This is going to be very interesting. But I think this game is in Dallas, Texas. Texas State's probably going to have a lot of fans and attendance jumping, loving. I'm going to say in this game here, I'm going to go with Texas State to find a way to pull this game out. I'm going to go 20-13 Texas State. What's your thoughts on this game and predictions, Jackson?
Well, I gotta say, looking back on Texas State and Rice, I mean, I know Rice had that double overtime victory over Houston on the NFL Network. I mean, oof, that had to have been embarrassing for Houston. But congrats to Rice, though. As for Texas State, they started off with a fantastic victory over the Baylor Bear Necessities in week one. GJ Ken is going to be a name to watch for in the coaching carousel. But for now, he's staying at Texas State, and it's going to be a great one for Texas State as they win 28-17.
Yeah, it should be fun. Looking forward to it. And we're both going Texas State. Ooh, now we've got Kansas against UNLV in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Kansas is a 12.5-point favorite. So the Vegas is not giving much respect to UNLV. Very interesting. And this is going to be interesting because do we know if Jason Bean is going to start this game or if he's entered the transfer portal?
I think Kansas will be all right in this game. I mean, had they not had the injury issues, they would have been a 10-win team. Because, I mean, I know I called in on the Voice of College Football in August, the day that the AP poll released the preseason poll. I said that Kansas was disrespected by the AP poll because obviously they didn't watch Kansas football last year prior to the injury to their starting QB. But now they were a lot better and they had a lot of highs, especially with that win against Oklahoma. And we basically learned a lot about Kansas when watching them against Illinois earlier this season. So I mean, fantastic year right there. As for UNLV, they've been pretty fantastic themselves. This is their best season since the mid 80s. I believe that was 1984, but back then that was a illegitimate season because that was NCAA violations for UNLV. So it's like their first legitimate season in a long while. Great job by Barry Odom, and if he keeps it up at UNLV, he's got a lot of names calling for him to be their
Now,
next head coach.
now, real quick, Jackson, before you make your selection, do you think it's kind of disrespectful that Kansas is this big of a favorite over a UNLV team who you just said had a great year? And do you think it's kind of disrespectful by Vegas? Like, hey, I know we're a non-power five, but give us some respect. We're not that bad.
I think they're trying to motivate UNLV a little bit. That's what I think they're doing.
I mean, I agree. I think that is part of it, but it's still like, come on. Kansas is 8-4, UNLV's 9-4. And it's like, when are we going to give the non-group of fives their respect when it's due? It would be different if this was UNLV against a powerhouse like an LSU or Wisconsin. Then it would be like, okay, I understand that. But this is Kansas. Kansas is not your typical powerhouse. Lance Leopold has done an incredible job. Don't get me wrong. But Kansas is not the powerhouse level of those other teams that I mentioned. But I think Kansas with Jason Bean and the way that they're rolling now, I think Kansas can get the job done. I'll let you pick this one first, good buddy. Who do you got winning this game?
I got Kansas winning this one 31-20. That's going to be a great win for the Kansas Jayhawks.
I tend to agree, Jackson. I'm going Kansas as well. Lance Leopold gets his first bowl win as the Kansas Jayhawks head coach after that heartbreaking loss last year to Arkansas in triple overtime. I got Kansas winning 28-24 over UNLV.
Ooh. You got a little more respect for UNLV than I do. Nice. I will say though, I'm not gonna lie. When I was watching that Liberty Bowl between Kansas, Arkansas, like I was just sad for those Kansas guys. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I was just sad for them.
It's the
Well,
heartbreak and the adulation of this game. It breaks your
true.
heart sometimes.
Well, speaking of some heartbreakers, Virginia Tech's gonna deal with one, in my opinion. But we'll go into a little more depth on the Military Bowl presented by GoBowling.com between Tulane and Virginia Tech. Austin, what did you think about Virginia Tech when you saw them against Louisville?
Look, Jackson, your boys Tulane made another great bowl game. There you go, good buddy. But anywho, this is very interesting. And the line is 8.5 Virginia Tech. Ooh. First off, let's speak on that before we get to your question, good buddy. Jackson, I don't know if you've seen that 8.5, but do you think that's a little disrespectful as well to Tulane? Like, I get Michael Pratt and company, they're not who they once were, and Willie Fritz is now at Houston. That's going to be a big deal. But
Oh yeah.
is Virginia Tech 8.5 points better than Tulane? What do you think on
I
that,
think
Jackson?
I think they're overreacting a little bit. And plus with Virginia Tech losing two of their key defensive players, they are ruled out due to injury against Tulane, so that's going to hurt them quite a bit. As for Tulane, I mean, they had a great season despite the fact that it ended in a loss to SMU in the AAC title game. That is pretty sad for Tulane, though. But they've been making a pretty good jump in college football over the past couple of years. But Virginia Tech, on the other hand, this is not the same team that got beat by Purdue and Rutgers and Marshall. I mean, this is a completely different team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to answer your question, Jackson, we know for as bad as we picked on Virginia, and for as bad as we picked on Virginia Tech about, oh, haha, Virginia Tech, you're hanging, you're doing this, that, and you're barely beating all these teams. Virginia Tech was in the thick of things to win second place in the ACC for as bad as we thought they were. And Brent Pry, give him credit for what he's done. Able to turn this team around, keep their confidence up, keep it going, and just to keep this team from falling completely off the rails after a couple of their losses. And here they are. They're currently in a bowl game against Tulane. I think when I first saw them, Jackson, I was like, this is a team that if their offense is playing at the highest level it can, it could beat any team in the ACC. And when their defense is harassing like it is, this team can do some damage. That was my first impression on, especially with Dorsey at quarterback. He's a special talent. He's got a heck of a cannon on him for someone that runs a lot. But this should be interesting. I think this is going to be a matchup of you know Tulane's offense against that ferocious Virginia Tech pass rush. But I think Willie Fritz not being there is going to hurt Tulane just a little bit, just a wee bit, because he was the guy who brought him back to prominence. But I think at the end, I think, like you said, Jackson, taking those injuries into account and all of the transfers, I think Tulane, being 8.5 points worse, I think that's a little bit of an over exaggeration. I'm going to take Virginia Tech, though. I think their pass rush gets home to Michael Pratt. I think they cause him into a couple turnovers. I got Virginia Tech 23-20 over Tulane. What about you, Jackson?
I'm going to say not so fast to you again, my friend. I'm going to go Tulane 27-21 against Virginia Tech.
That that is fair. Now on to the Duke's Mayo Bowl. You've got North Carolina versus West Virginia, and West Virginia is a 6.5 point favorite. And Jackson, the important note of this one before I let you go on this one is Drake May has opted out, so North Carolina will be turning to their backup. Go ahead, good
Yeah.
buddy. Give us your thoughts on this game and talk about the impact Drake May opting out may have on this game.
Well, I mean, North Carolina's defense is not exactly one of the greatest. It's kind of a disaster. I mean, this team, had great potential in September. They were unbeaten, but then they fell apart against Georgia Tech and Virginia. And then they lose a tight one to Clemson because I think Louisville beat Miami kind of just, you know, upset them that day. And then they get beat by NC State. So it's just like, what's going on, Tar Heel Nation? What is going
Jackson,
on?
Jackson, I think after we beat Miami, North Carolina might have said, screw it for the rest of the year. We can't win nothing anyway. Louisville done took away everything we wanted.
You
They're
shouldn't
like,
have lost to Virginia. You shouldn't have lost to Virginia, Tar Heel Nation.
and Jackson, and this not to turn this into a Louisville debate, but all North Carolina fans were saying that, oh, how could you all lose to Pittsburgh? Y'all just blew your chance at the ACC. And then the next week they turn around and blew it to Virginia. The and Jackson, and now the funny thing is, it's the CW curse. If you're an
Yeah.
ACC team, don't get put on the CW curse against a worser team than you. You will lose. It's been proven.
Or better yet, make sure your game after you play a big game, make sure that you don't have to go to Pittsburgh the week after. Because I'll tell you, when you go to Pittsburgh, that's where teams go to die, especially in the top 25.
Well, in Jackson, you want to know something that's even worse before we get into the West Virginia side of things? Virginia beat North Carolina at home. At
Yeah.
home. And they want to rag on us about Pittsburgh. At least we went on the road and lost. Virginia came to
Yeah.
your backyard and gave you all the beat down. Like, and I'm not trying to turn this into a Carolina Louisville debate, but some Carolina fans were saying that it's just one of those things that, oh, you had a worse loss than we did. Then they do that, and then especially it's at home. I tend to disagree, but go ahead though, Jackson.
Well, West Virginia as well, they've had a pretty good season. I mean, Neil Brown was on the hot seat, and our good friend Joey Foster said they had the talent to be a 9-3, 10-2 team, I believe. I'm not sure, but he believed in their ability to do way better than 4-8, 5-7, 6-6. He felt they were way better. Let me tell you something. Joey Foster was right. And I mean, we saw West Virginia this season, especially against Pittsburgh, Texas Tech, what they did against TCU. Oh my God, that was tremendous against TCU. And on my birthday, no less. I mean, West Virginia decided to give me a birthday present that day. But a week and a half later, we see that Hail Mary pass just kind of kill the momentum a little bit from Houston. And then Oklahoma State decides to just rip West Virginia apart. And then the question was, is Neil Brown back on the hot seat? Well, no, because they beat up on UCF. They get out the belt and spank BYU. They get spanked by Oklahoma, but all they have to do is beat Cincy and Baylor, and Brown is staying all the same. And guess what? They do. And he's got that vote of confidence for 2024. But I will tell you, though, if they beat North Carolina in the Duke Mayo Bowl, Neil Brown is going to have a lot of momentum for 2024. and especially in the Big 12 without Texas, Oklahoma. They say it's going to be much easier to win that conference, but I highly doubt that because that is going to be a majorly competitive conference. It's going to be scary, man, especially with Arizona and Utah coming. But that's another time, another day to discuss that. But there's going to be ongoing debates after this game if West Virginia beats North Carolina as to whether could they have done it if Drake May was in the lineup. Oh no, they couldn't have done it without Drake May. But what do you think, Austin?
I think here's the thing, Jackson. When it comes to these bowl games, we can I get why people use the opt outs as an excuse because if Drake May was here or or for any team for that matter, just not North Carolina, they use that and it's kind of like the injury excuse. It's like it's a bad excuse. Come on, guys. Like I get it, it's a thing, it happens in college football, but you both lined up and the better team won that day. And here's the thing, Jackson. I think if Drake May was on the field, North Carolina would be the better team by a slight margin. I think a lot of us would agree. Would you agree with that, Jackson, assessment? North Carolina would be a slight bit better with Drake May?
Oh, oh yeah. I mean,
But without
West
him,
Virginia.
go ahead.
West Virginia's gonna make trouble for North Carolina. But before I make my pick on this game, and before you do, would you like to know a little something historical about the series history the last time they met?
Go
It
for it.
it was in the 2008 Meineke Car Care Bowl. Now West Virginia won that game, but for those who are watching, for those that know us, that are West Virginia fans, they know that that's the game where Pat White became the first ever starting quarterback in all of college football to start all 4 bowl games and win those games. That was pretty big back then. Now, we don't know if no other quarterback has accomplished that since, but I'm sure there's been one or two that I'm missing, but we'll definitely find those games. But as I digress, what's your pick on the Duke's Mayo Bowl? Who's going to get slathered in mayonnaise?
Oh, what a tradition. Well, the thing is this. Drake May has opted out, but I believe Tez Walker and Omar Hampton have not opted out. Those are 2 key pieces in the offense, and whoever the backup quarterback is for North Carolina, that's going to be a big help. And Jackson, this is in Charlotte, North Carolina, so this is in the Tar Heels' backyard. They're going to have a lot of screaming fans. There's going to be a lot of Sea of Carolina blue. I think in this game here, I think North Carolina feeds off that. And I think, everyone thinks they're down and out with Drake May. I think this would be the perfect coming out party to show that Carolina can move forward without Drake May and win some football games. And the home crowd's going to help out big time. And the running game for Carolina is going to get going. I'm going Tar Heels 34-31 over West Virginia. 34-31, North Carolina wins. And Mac Brown gets covered in mayonnaise. Or mayo, excuse me.
Well, here's what I say to that, Austin, my dear friend. Not so fast, my friend. I'm going with the Mountaineers, baby. Mountaineers all the way. And it's going to be a 31-21 victory.
Mm-hmm. Well, we shall see, Jackson. It should be interesting. Oh, boy. I see that game
Ooh.
down at the bottom.
The
My Louisville,
DirecTV Holiday Bowl. Take it away, my good friend.
the DirecTV Holiday Bowl, my Louisville Cardinals going up against the USC Trojans. And we know a certain fan base of Trojans, Jackson, who had a lot of high expectations for USC this year. And, and even we did, Jackson, as non-USC fans, we had some expectations like USC should be a playoff contender, maybe even win the Pac-12. But once again, Jackson, their defense is porous, and that's being nice. Caleb Williams, had to score almost every time he had the ball because his defense couldn't stop nobody, Jackson. It was terrible. And USC fans will even tell you they couldn't tackle, they couldn't stop anybody. And they even say that the USC don't even deserve to be in this good of a bowl game for how poor they played in a lot of games this year. But as you look at it from our point of view, we've had a great year, and this man up here up top, Jackson, convinced me that Jeff Brom is going to be a great hire for Louisville going forward. He's going to bring us a lot of success, and he's going to take us places we've never been before. And so far, Jackson, your point has been proven right, and I'm loving it. And we are a 7.5 point favorite. So obviously, with Caleb Williams opting out, that's a big help in our favor. But USC, they still got a lot of talent. Can't overlook them. And it's in their backyard in California. We got to travel. This is going to be very interesting. But Jackson, give me your take on this game and your prediction.
Well, we know Caleb Williams is not going to play in this game, which I'm pretty sad about, but I understand why. He's got to look out for his draft stock. He's got to make sure that he's not getting hurt in this bowl game. I completely understand because you got to look out for those around you and yourself as well. Because, I've always heard you should put the seatbelt on you first and then put the seatbelt on those around you. And, USC's made a lot of incredible staff hires for 2024, but unfortunately, they're not going to be coaching in this game for now. They're not going to be coaching on this game. As for Louisville, tremendous, remarkable season. I mean, when I watched the Louisville Notre Dame game, I saw that they shut out everybody in the first quarter prior to Notre Dame and during the Notre Dame game. That was an amazing stat in of itself. I loved what your boys were doing. And I'm going to tell you right now, you got a bright future ahead of you. And USC, I think they got a bright future ahead of them, but I don't think USC's got a bright future in the near future on Fox against Louisville. I think that's going to be a 35-17 victory. That USC defense cannot get things done. It's a complete and total disaster. It needs to be rehauled all over the place.
I will say, Jackson, the one thing that scares me is Jack Plummer. USC knows him very well. They played him at Cal, and and Jack Plummer has been known to be turnover prone at times, and that's what scares me. USC is a team that if they could get takeaways at the right time, it could be ball game over. That's what they did all last year. As much as people trashed their defense, they got takeaways when it mattered, and they won a lot of games. And with that being said, Jackson, it's very concerning. I don't think we've had too many opt-outs. We've had a couple guys coming back for their senior year. Ashton Gelati, he announced on Thursday that he was coming back. That's going to be a big get. He'll be in this bowl game. Jawar Jordan, I believe he's playing. Plummer's going to play. I just think in this game, I'm not as confident as I should be, but I'm going to take my boys 26-19 over the Trojans.
Ooh, there we go. Sweet. And then we go over to a game down below us that involves former Big 12 conference opponents, Texas A&M, Oklahoma State. But who knows, with realignment, maybe they can come back to being conference opponents. But I don't know. But in the meantime, we got the Texas A&M Aggies going up against the Oklahoma State Cowboys on ESPN in the Tats at Texas Bowl. What do you think about Mr. Ollie Gordon at Oklahoma State?
I will say, Jackson, the first thing that pops off in my mind, Texas A&M is a 2.5 point favorite. That just goes to show you right there, Jackson, that Vegas is favoring an SEC team over the Big 12 runner-up. Now that is what you could call disrespectful right there.
Did they
Big
not
time.
did they not watch the same college football that we do? I mean, did they not watch Ollie Gordon? My god.
Well,
I'm trying not to
Jackson.
get mad at Vegas here.
Well, here's the thing, Jackson. When you're in the SEC, you always get the benefit of the doubt, and
I
that's
don't
just how
give
it's
a
always
rat's
been.
behind if you're in the SEC. You're going up against one of the best running backs in all of college football in the same breath of Barry Sanders.
Well, Jackson, that doesn't matter because Oklahoma State's in the Big 12, and Vegas
I
doesn't care
don't
about the Big
care if
12.
they're in the freaking Conference USA. They've had a tremendous turnaround.
See, this is what happens when, and this is guys, for all you watching out there on either of our channels. Jackson is a diehard Alabama fan, and he's sitting here ragging on his own conference. So it goes to show he has no bias whatsoever. But anywho, I will say though, to your point, Jackson, I do think it's not right that Texas A&M is favored. I know it's only 2.5, but Ollie Gordon has been the best running back, arguably in college football today. You can make arguments for a couple other guys. Obviously, my guy Jawar Jordan at Louisville, Omar Hampton. Those guys have been up there in that conversation as well. But Ollie Gordon has been leading the way. Trey Henderson at Ohio State, so forth. But Ollie Gordon's been at the top of it, and he's been carrying the Oklahoma State team on his back, and they kind of been carried across the finish line. But I will say, Jackson, obviously Oklahoma State, what an incredible year they had. Losing to South Alabama, everyone ready to fire Mike Gundy, and then he wins the last edition of the Bedlam and shocks the world and ends Oklahoma's playoff chances, and they get the last lap, and then they get to the Big 12 championship game. What a story for them. And then as for Texas A&M, the bad man is gone, everybody. Jimbo Fisher is gone. He's out. It's a new era in Aggie land. And maybe you could beat Alabama on a more consistent level now. But that'll be another story for another time. But this will be interesting for sure. Jackson, give me your take on this game and prediction, good buddy.
Well, I will say though about Texas A&M, I still kind of wonder about those three freshmen that were smoking dope before they played South Carolina last season. I wonder where they're at. I don't know if they're still at Texas A&M or not, but they're probably smoking a joint before they play Ollie Gordon in Oklahoma State. So, but all kidding aside, Texas A&M, I was completely shocked when Jimbo got fired after that butt whipping they put out on Mississippi State. I mean, I was like, okay, are they like negotiating the buyout to be lower? I mean, they probably are because there's no way they are paying this man 75 million. I mean, they gotta be. There's lawyers involved in this. I mean, do not be hiring a Jimmy Sexton client again, Texas A&M. They'll bite you in the rear. But as for Oklahoma State, tremendous turnaround after that beatdown from South Alabama that lost to Iowa State. And little did any of us know that the Friday night victory over Kansas State was a sign of things to come. And it came against Kansas. They showed us against West Virginia. But I'll tell you what, though, like you said, they showed us against Oklahoma. But unfortunately, they went down against UCF. They basically showed Houston a thing or two, and they got close against BYU. BYU almost snagged the upset and played spoiler, but fortunately for Oklahoma State, they didn't. And I hope that next year Ollie Gordon is named as a Heisman Trophy candidate. I hope so. I'm glad he won the Dope Walker Award. I mean, he won something. I mean, thank goodness for that. I mean that dude is a baller. Next year he's gonna be a junior, and he's gonna be the junior dog of the Big 12. I'm telling you right now. Do not get on the bad side of Ollie Gordon. He's a winner. A winner all over the place.
So does that mean you're taking Oklahoma State in this game?
Well, Austin, I got 3 words for you. Yes, definitely, absolutely, and it's gonna be a 35-20 victory over the Texas A&M Aggies.
I'm glad you have some confidence in them, Jackson.
You're
The only thing
goddamn right I do.
the only thing that scares me about this is Alan Bowman. Can he keep his interceptions down? Because he's had times this year where he's thrown multiple pick games and it's cost Oklahoma State at the wrong times. And
True.
Oklahoma State fans know that just as well as anybody. And I'm sure they fear for that as well. But I think a heavy dose of Ollie Gordon, I think a heavy dose of Ollie Gordon and the running game should keep the turnovers down and keep the picks down. I'm going with Oklahoma State as well. I think they get the job done. I'm going 38-27. Oklahoma State gets the W.
Well, you know what they say, great minds think alike. Sweet. Well, and we got ourselves a future ACC conference game at Fenway Park in the Fenway Bowl on ESPN, the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. Remember, kids, do not snort wasabi. That's bad for you. Steve-O learned the hard way. That's a no-no. But in the meantime, we go over this beautiful future ACC conference game between SMU and Boston College. Austin, what do you think about it, my friend?
Well, Jackson, it shows you how bad of a team they think Boston College is. SMU's an 11 point favorite. They're double digit favorites, the first one today. Good grief. I guess they have no confidence in the Eagles of Boston College, which, Jackson, I don't blame them. Our good buddy Jeffrey goes on rants about Boston College all the time. And on when him and Will indeed do shows together, which by the way, check out their live streams, great stuff. They do the same thing we're doing here as well. But anywho, I mean, Jackson, you look at Boston College, I mean, Northern Illinois, Holy Cross, really? I mean,
Really?
Jackson, I don't want to sound too confident, but I feel like we could put you out there at quarterback, good buddy, and you would have won those games. I
Oh,
mean, but here's the crazy part, though, Jackson. That's not even the kicker. Boston College almost beat Florida State this year, the team that won the ACC. Like, this team makes no sense whatsoever. Like one week they're taking the ACC's best down to the wire, and then the next week they're getting beat by Holy Cross. I mean, good gracious,
well,
Marty.
they almost got beat by Holy Cross, but they got beat by Northern Illinois.
Northern Illinois, thank you. Wrong team.
Yeah.
But you get my point. That's bad. You shouldn't be almost getting beat by Holy Cross. That's a no-no.
I think Louisville basically sent Boston College a reality check with that 56-28 victory, and Boston College like, "Geez, we gotta change some things up." So I watched a little bit of Boston College on my birthday against Virginia, and they looked a little better. They looked a lot better than they did against Northern Illinois, Louisville, and Holy Cross, but they brought their best A game against Florida State, which, let's be real, everybody's gonna bring their A game against Florida State, especially teams like Boston College, and they won a tight one against Army. They beat Georgia Tech by double digits, and they win some tight ones against UConn and Syracuse. They fall apart against Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh, and Miami. And yeah, it's just good God, that is horrible. That's bad, bad.
But but
Luckily, Jeff Hafley's job is saved. But as for SMU, we're going to get on a lighter note with them. This is their first conference title season since 1984. But for those who don't want to count the 1980s, because that was the NCAA allegations for SMU, this is their first legitimate conference title since 1966 when Hayden Fry coached at that university back in those days. Austin, And what would you like to add more on this game? Is there anything I missed?
I would like to say, like you said, Rhett Lashley did a great job with SMU. We'll get to it at a later date, but a lot of people think that SMU maybe should have got the Power Five bid in the New Year's Six, but we'll get to that at a later date in another video when we get to the New Year's Six games. But I think in this game here, Boston College, they're not a very good football team. They
No.
crawled their way to 6-6. I think SMU's out to prove a point that they can hang in a Power Five conference, and this is their chance to prove it in a historical Fenway, in the historical Wasabi Fenway Bowl in Fenway Park, where a lot of history is taking place, especially if you're a baseball fan. I think SMU wins this game, and I think they win it big time. I got SMU 31, Boston College 10.
Ooh, there we go. Low confidence. I mean, regardless of who wins this game next year, this is going to be a big revenge game for whoever loses this game because it will be on the docket next year. We don't know when it'll be scheduled, presumably in late January, but either way, that's far out into the future, man. So I think I'm going to go SMU 28-10 on this one. They are
Well,
foaming at the mouth, mad about being left out.
very true. And Jackson, since we're on the subject of historical moments in baseball stadiums, let's go to Yankee Stadium, shall we? Across the road
Yeah, baby. Yankee Stadium.
for the Bad Boy Moors Pinstripe Bowl. What a heck of a name. You've got Rutgers against the inconsistent Miami Hurricanes. And Jackson, you want to talk about how close Vegas has this game? Miami is a 1-point favorite. So basically, they're saying it's a pick 'em. You pick it your choice. But give me your thoughts on this game and just let me know what you think of this game overall and the fact that we're getting some historical stadiums here in college football.
Oh, I love it. I mean, please don't cut off the Pinstripe Bowl. If we're talking about cutting off bowl games next year, do not cut off the Pinstripe Bowl. Don't do this to us. Don't do that to us, college football. But anyway, Miami, they have been the Jekyll and Hyde of the ACC. They had some great moments, like against Texas A&M, tremendous moment against Texas A&M, and then they blow it against Georgia Tech. They look awful against North Carolina, unfortunately. They almost lose to Virginia, but they do great against Clemson and they beat them in double overtime. Woohoo! They beat them in double overtime. They get a little bit lucky. They almost get lucky against Louisville. Couldn't quite get done. They were a few yards short of that game tying touchdown. But fortunately, they didn't fall apart against Boston College. Thank goodness for them. Oh my God. As for Rutgers, they have not won a game since they clinched bowl eligibility against Indiana. I mean, they almost beat Ohio State at one point, but, couldn't get it done. They got shut out by Iowa. They get smacked by Penn State and Maryland. They were able to get the job done earlier this season. And they gave Graziano a contract extension through 2030. So they're pretty happy with how he's doing at Rutgers, especially in his second stint. And I'll give you a little series history note. Rutgers has never beaten Miami in the series history, especially when they were conference opponents in the Big East from 1991 to 2003. Will this year be the first time Rutgers beats Miami in the series history? Take it away.
I don't know. I mean, like you said, Miami, they're kind of the Jekyll and Hyde. And Rutgers, they kind of caught us all by surprise in the Big Ten. You know, after we saw them beat Northwestern down, we all kind of thought, We can't really think much of that because Northwestern's just going to be terrible. And then it turns out Northwestern's a good football team. They, David Braun and company actually is competent. So now it turns our whole thinking around like, holy crap, is Rutgers and Northwestern good football teams? I mean, holy moly. But Tyler Van Dyke, he transferred to Wisconsin. He's out of there, so he won't be playing in this. Emory Williams had a season-ending injury. Heal up, young man. He was a young true freshman, I believe. He'll be back for his sophomore year. Heal up. But Miami's down to their third string quarterback, and it's not looking good. But Miami is the Jekyll and Hyde team, though, Jackson. Like you said, they've had a lot of close calls. I mean, they almost beat their rival Florida State. They fell a few yards short on the Hail Mary. And Rutgers has not won since bowl eligibility, which is very concerning. But Jackson, I think Miami, with the talent that they have, I'm going to pick the Canes to represent our conference. I'm going to go Miami to win 23-17 over Rutgers. What about you?
I think I'm gonna go Rutgers on this one. Because I mean, I was gonna go Miami, but now that I think about it, Miami's the favorite. They're gonna lose. I'm gonna go Rutgers on this one. And you said Miami?
Yes, I said Miami 23-17.
Sorry to our Miami friends, especially traveling fools, man. Great
Traveling
friend.
Bulls. If Miami wins, I picked you. Just remember that. Blame Jackson. He's the one who didn't have faith. But Jackson, I'm getting kind of hungry. Oh, I know what we can have. Let's go to the
What's
Pop Tart Bowl, Jackson, and let's go
One
eat some.
question: How are they gonna do like the little Gatorade thing? Are they gonna pull like Pop Tarts in that thing or what?
I don't know.
Put like Pop Tart frosting on the coach. Like I'll tell you what though, you bathe me in a bunch of frosting, you know I'll eat it, man. I mean, frosting's yummy. It's yummy.
I mean, here's the thing, Jackson. Who, who comes up with these names? Who's like,
I don't know, but I'm not
were they
complaining.
were
I
they just
love
sitting
it.
there like, we need new bowl names? I'm hungry. I want a Pop Tart. That's it. We'll call it a Pop Tart Bowl. Well, here we are, the Pop Tart Bowl in Orlando, Florida, Camping World Stadium. You got NC State against Kansas State, and Kansas State is a 3-point favorite. So basically a pick 'em. Your thoughts on this game, Jackson, and prediction?
Well, I will say though, NC State has had a tremendous season this year. I mean, they have a 9-win season, and if they have a 10-win season, it'll be the first time since I believe 2002 when they had Phillip Rivers at quarterback. They couldn't even achieve a 10-win season when they had Russell Wilson at the docket from 2008 to 2010. Imagine if they can get a 10-win season to end the 2023 season with a victory in the Pop Tarts Bowl. That would be extremely awesome for NC State. But we do know that it's going to be tough because they're not going to have star defensive player Peyton Wilson. He's going to be out. He's opting out of the Pop Tarts Bowl. But Kansas State, they've had a pretty decent season, especially for defending champs in the Big 12. They kept it close, but no cigar against Texas. Well, they did smack around Texas Tech after they got beat by Oklahoma State. They did deal with a sad loss to Missouri from a 62-yard field goal by Missouri, which, yeah, that was a pretty long field goal right there. I mean, wow. I am not. It was good. My mistake. It was 61. I mean, I go back to week 3 and call Missouri Kansas State the most underrated game of 2023. I mean, I think next year, I think I'm gonna be listing another Kansas State game on my list for underrated games.
And the thing about it is, too, good buddy, not to cut you off, but how unlucky is that? 61 yards? I
Mhm.
mean, if you replay that 10 times, how many times do you think he's going to make that? Two more, maybe? Like Kansas State just got an unlucky break. Go ahead, good buddy.
Man, it was just like I felt like I was watching George Blanda, Adam Vinatieri reincarnated, with watching that game-winning field goal. And unfortunately, Kansas State ended the regular season in a loss to Iowa State. So I mean, but on the bright side, they were able to keep up their dominance against Kansas football in the Sunflower Showdown. But they can probably end the season with another 9-win season. Chris Kleiman's doing a tremendous job over in Manhattan, Kansas.
Yeah, I will say before you make your pick, Jackson, I will say a lot of people had NC State going 9-3, what they are now. But it wasn't looking too bright there for a while because you remember, Jackson, a lot of people after the 13-10 loss to my Louisville Cardinals, everyone was like, NC State, they're a disaster. Brendan Armstrong, he's not the answer. And then they brought in MJ Morris. He worked for a couple games and then he fell off. And then Brendan Armstrong comes back in and recaptures the spark. So both these teams have roller coaster years, but I'll let you pick this game first.
But I will say, though, Manhattan, New York may have expensive cuisine such as Chateaubriands and nice ensembles and nice Louis Vuitton bags. But it's not Manhattan, Kansas, my friends. Manhattan, Kansas, that is the place to be for me. And I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to be extremely happy with the Wildcats knocking down North Carolina State in tight fashion with a 31-28 victory.
Yeah, Jackson, I have one thing to say to you.
What's that? Yeah, I knew
Go Wildcats, good buddy. I'm going Kansas State 35-26. I'm going Kansas State. Go Wildcats. Go
I'm looking
Purple.
forward to this. I am looking forward to the Pop Tart Bowl. I just wonder what's going to happen with the winning coach. How they're going to douse him? Pop Tarts or Pop Tarts frosting? Oh man,
But yeah, Jackson, we're both going Kansas State. I'm going 35-26. Ooh, this next game should be fun. You've got Arizona against Oklahoma in the Valero Alamo Bowl, and Arizona is a 3-point favorite in San Antonio, Texas, in the Alamo Dome. And one key note, Dylan Gabriel has transferred out. He will not play. He will be in Oregon. Donald Duck is my partner in crime up there, says all the time. But Jackson, give your early takes on this game and predictions, and just talk about the success of Jed Fish and how he's turned Arizona into possibly a football and basketball school.
oh, I'll tell you. You know what's funny about this game is that Oklahoma's in the Big 12 right now. Arizona's not in the Big 12 right now, but they will be next year. So Arizona's going to be great to watch in the Big 12 with Jed Fish. I mean, who would have thought when watching Arizona Washington on September 30th, we were going to be seeing an Arizona team become a 9-win team? And who'd have thought, when watching Arizona USC several weeks back, that we would be looking back and saying, that's a team with a 6-game winning streak. I mean, nobody did. Nobody did. What a tremendous turnaround by Jed Fish. I mean, they go from 1 win, 5 wins. Now we're possibly going to see a 10-win season to end the 2023 season over in Tucson, Arizona. This
What
is
a
a
jump.
fan. Exactly. What a great job. I mean, Kalen DeBoer, I'm happy that he's Pac-12 Coach of the Year, but I'm glad they consider Jed Fish for the nomination. So I mean, I'm happy that they gave him a consideration. So I mean, I'm not gonna complain. But tremendous job. And shout out to my guy at Sidelines Arizona, Tyler, who was on a Jacksonian episode earlier this year in August. He is happy and celebrating and playing some great music to this season.
But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a very interesting game. Noah Fafita. Just imagine Jackson when he comes back next year. He'll be playing the whole season.
Oh
Imagine
yeah.
where he could take Arizona. But as for Oklahoma, Dylan Gabriel is now transferring to Oregon, so Brent Venables is going to have to find his guy again in his backups. And Brent Venables get Oklahoma to a 10-2 season. Magnificent job after the overhaul that after Lincoln Riley took everybody just from Oklahoma. It was almost like a vacuum cleaner, took it all away. And now Brent Venables has finally got his pieces in there. And Jackson, I think it's safe to say Oklahoma has a defense again.
Oh yeah.
And people were ready to throw Brent Venables out too, Jackson. We all remember after last year, there were some people having their pitchforks saying, we got to fire him. He's not fixing nothing. Well, give him time, guys. You got to give him some time. And look what he did this year. Great turnaround for Oklahoma. But it's going to be very difficult to win this game without their starting quarterback back who transferred. But Jackson, I'll let you pick on this one first.
Yeah, I just want to say before I start off my pick, it's not the majority of people that watch college football that were like, Brent Venables has to go. It's just some of the crazies that just watch the one game in front of them, and they just kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. Obviously, they're not sitting there looking at the whole history of the team or anything. They're just looking at that one game, that one bad day. But I'm gonna tell you right now, Brent Venables has a bright future over in Norman, Oklahoma. It may not look like it in SEC country, but believe me, they got a bright future ahead of them. Arizona, as we stated before, tremendous future they got with Jed Fish. They better make sure they can pay him all the money they can give him. And it's going to be in Arizona, 35-24 victory.
Well, Jackson, now I can say it. Not so fast, my friend. Oklahoma with the back to their walls. Nobody's picking them. Brent Venables is out to prove that he can make it in SEC country and Sooner country. Oklahoma gets the win 30-23 over them Wildcats. I'm going Oklahoma 30-23. Oh boy. The Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl.
Before we get to that, we're going to start it off with the Tat Slayer Gator Bowl between the Clemson Tigers and the Kentucky Wildcats.
Oh boy. Oh boy. I mean, what direction do we want to take here? I mean, Clemson is a 4-point favorite. Could be very interesting. I would like to say that Clemson's been very up and down this year. Not a lot of people expected Duke to beat them to open the year. I know I certainly didn't. I don't know about you, Jackson, if you had Duke as one of their losses this year. But, Garrett Riley, his first year, we'll see what he's got next year before we throw the baby out with the bathwater, as you like to say. Let's see if he just needs time to adjust to Dabo's system and maybe get this Clemson offense running. But as for Kentucky, I mean, they ran the gauntlet of the SEC. As much as I don't like them as much, I give them props. They ran the gauntlet of the SEC the best they could. And, there's certain Kentucky fans that thought at the beginning of the year that they were going to whoop up on Alabama, that Nick Saban was old and didn't know what he was doing, but that's neither here nor there. I think those Kentucky fans learned their lesson. And, a lot of Kentucky fans even thought they would beat Georgia. And it's like, calm down, guys. You beat up on a bad Gators team. Let's chill. Let's take a chill pill here, shall we? But Devin Leary, he's been very inconsistent for Kentucky. But Ray Davis, whew, he is a monster. He gets out in the open field. Good luck tackling him. That's all I got to say. You want to talk about the league's best running backs for college? Ray Davis deserves a lot of credit. And as a Louisville fan, it hurts me to say it, but he does. But it should be interesting. Jackson, your thoughts on this game and your prediction.
Well, I will say though, I know that he'll be playing in the Gator Bowl. He was gonna say, "Oh well, I'm opting out," but he's like, "Look, even though I'm declaring for the 2024 draft, I'm still playing in this game." But Kentucky, I don't know what's with them. Like they always get up for Clemson, not Clemson, Florida. They always get up for the Florida game, and they somehow forget how to play football afterwards. I don't know what's up with that. But as for Clemson, they pretty much had a slow start, but they remembered how to play football in the month of November. And I'll be honest, I think that momentum can continue for Clemson. Hmm. I, I'm I am impressed with how they rattled all 4 straight wins. I mean, Notre Dame, North Carolina, South Carolina, they do not like Clemson all that much right now.
Mm-hmm. For sure. But I will say though, Jackson, before we pick, if you want me to start on this one, I think in this game here, it's going to come down, can Clemson's defensive line stop the running game of Ray Davis and company and pressure Devin Leary and force him into some turnovers? And can the Kentucky defense keep Clay Klubnik in the pocket and not keep him less mobile? That'll be the biggest key, I think, in deciding the winner. But I think with all that being said, Mark Stoops always finds a way to win these games. For whatever reason, he always finds a way. I'm going. I'm. I don't like doing this, but I'm going Kentucky 20-17
Oh, wow.
over Clemson.
Well, I will say, though, I think Clemson's going to win this one 24-14 on this one. And they're going to use that 5 straight game winning streak as momentum for the 2024 season. Knowing Clemson, that's how they're going to roll. But
Jackson, before we move on, I would like to say Mark Stoops always finds a way to screw things up when you least expect it. Take it from a Louisville fan, guys. I'm going Kentucky 2017. Go ahead, good buddy.
well, I will say this next game, now we're there, the Tony the Tigers Sub Bowl between the Oregon State Beavers and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And we know that Sam Hartman has opted out of this game. How much do you think that's going to hurt Notre Dame, or is it really going to make all that big of a difference? What do you think?
Well, Jackson, as you can see, Vegas has Notre Dame as a 6.5 point favorite. So obviously, Vegas still thinks that Notre Dame's the superior team. Honestly, Jackson, Notre Dame, this is what they do. To be quite honest with you, it doesn't matter who's at quarterback. They just do Notre Dame football, run the football, pound it into the ground, pause, and just do things Notre Dame way and play hard nosed defense. But you've got Oregon State on the other side who does the same thing, hard nosed defense, runs the football, and does things their way. But they did lose Jonathan Smith as he will be taking the Michigan State job and beginning his journey in the Big Ten. That's a big loss for Oregon State. As for Notre Dame, I think Sam Hartman is a great talent. Don't get me wrong, he can stretch the field, but Notre Dame is Notre Dame. They're going to run the football and do their thing.
Yeah. Well, we know Aiden Chills is in the transfer portal. He's going where Jonathan Smith is at. in East Lansing, Michigan. I think that's going to hurt them quite a bit. But what's going to be going on with that Notre Dame offense? I mean, we know that there's been a lot of people that have not been too thrilled about them. But what do you think?
I will say this, Jackson, before I make my selection. I will say this. Gerald Parker, however you say his name, is not a very creative offensive coordinator. And, I get Notre Dame's a brand of football that's just object estimate, down the throw, and then it sets up play action. I get that. But sometimes you have to adapt to the times and throw in a little motion in the ocean, do a little something to trickeration, something to get the defense thinking. But if Notre Dame can can make their offense in the 21st century just a little bit, not much, just a little bit, enough for this game, they should get the win. Oregon State, they're in complex right now. They have no home. Nobody wants them for whatever reason. Jonathan Smith left them. It's been rough for the Beavers fans. I feel for you. And unfortunately, you don't get to celebrate in the Sun Bowl. I'm going Notre Dame 16-9. I'm
Oh
going
wow,
9. This is
you
gonna be a
not.
this is gonna be a defensive game, Jackson. Your pick.
Ooh, you don't have that much confidence in Notre Dame or Oregon State. Oh man, I mean everybody as a whole leaving Oregon State, especially ukulele. I mean, oh man, this is gonna hurt Oregon State. But I think I'm gonna go with Notre Dame in a 21-10 victory.
Well, I will say this before we move on, Jackson. I will say this. I mean, you've only got one more point better than me with Oregon State, so it looks like we're not as confident. You're not as confident as either, and
Nope.
there's good reason to be.
No.
But go ahead,
I
though.
mean Oregon State's just gonna be looking like a mess going into the Sun Bowl. But we know both teams aren't gonna be looking like a mess in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. The Memphis Tigers and the Iowa State Cyclones.
Oh, this is going to be a very interesting game. Iowa State is an 8.5 point favorite. Wow. Vegas is being very, very. They believe in the Cyclones. But Jackson, this is in Memphis, Tennessee. This is in Memphis's literal backyard. Memphis is going to have a lot of fans there. Iowa State may not have that many.
Yeah,
So,
tell that to Jacksonville State in the New Orleans Bowl that you can't win in home field advantage. Somebody's got to tell that to Rich Rod Jacksonville State today when watching that game because they forgot that rule.
yeah, I think it does make a difference, but I don't think it makes too much of a difference. Depending on the team and the scenario, I think Memphis, they have a big fan base, but I think most of their fan base is basketball. So may not be as big a crowd as we think. But as for this, Iowa State, Matt Campbell, what a turnaround he had after losing 10-7 to the eventual Myrtle Beach champions, Ohio Bobcats. A lot of people were ready to throw the soup out, but the soup was able to get it done, being Matt Campbell, was able to get it done and get Iowa State to 7-5 and bowl eligible. And maybe he's finally got Iowa State back on track and ready to roar in the Big 12 again. As for
Yeah,
Memphis in the American Conference, hopefully they can keep the success going. And their defense is very concerning. They give up a lot of points, but should be interesting. Your take and picks on this game, Jackson.
man, I'm just so glad the crazies have gone away from the Matt Campbell hot seat. I was just like, good grief. I was watching Iowa State, Ohio, and I heard people say, "Oh, Matt Campbell's on the hot seat. He needs to get fired." Who you gonna find that's gonna want to go to Ames, Iowa? Nobody. Nobody. Good grief. I mean, that's the best coach ever for Iowa State football. But luckily, the Crazies ran away after Iowa State upset Oklahoma State and TCU. That shut them up real quick. Thank goodness. I mean, what a tremendous turnaround by the Cyclones in Ames, Iowa. As for Memphis, they have just been a top group of 5 team again, but unfortunately, they couldn't quite get it done against SMU. They couldn't do enough to get in the AAC conference title game, but we wish them a lot of luck next season, and we wish them a lot of luck in this game trying to get a 10-win season. But a lot of people wondered, can Ryan Silverfield get the job done, leading Memphis into a 9-win season? Well, he did. He did very well. But the question is next year, can he win the big game? We're not going to get to that right now, but we will get to that later. But right now, I'm going to go Iowa State in a 28-24 victory.
Yeah, I'm going Iowa State as well, Jackson. I agree with you. I think Iowa State continues their role that they've had this year. I'm going Iowa State 38-28 over the Memphis Tigers. And now the New Year's 6 games, obviously Ohio State, Missouri, Ole Miss, Penn State, Florida State, Georgia. We will do those in another video for another time, and we will also do the playoffs in another time. So don't fear, we're not
talking about playoffs. Playoffs. I just want to win a game.
We will do those in another video. Me and Jackson will be back for those, so don't worry. We will talk about those, and we will break those down more in depth for everybody. So we will talk about their seasons, talk about how they got there, and then give our picks on it. But Jackson, take the 4-way for this bowl game.
Well, as you know, I've labeled Maryland as the Syracuse of the Big Ten, especially after they lost to Ohio State, because they could not play football for some reason. They lost to Illinois, lost a tight one to Northwestern. Of course, they got whipped by Penn State, but they basically had a reality check, and they were like, oh, okay, let's not end our season like this. We got beat Nebraska. Then they basically keep it close to Michigan. They basically spank Rutgers. But that is a team to watch for in the coming years. Like Maryland is going to be one of those Jekyll and Hyde teams in all of college football where, before they play a big game, they're great, but afterwards they're falling apart. But they still got Taulia Tagovailoa in this game. I hope he gets it done against Auburn, but that's a toss-up right now. I guess we'll wait and see. But as for Auburn, they've been in the first season of Hugh Freeze. It's been an emotional roller coaster for Auburn, Alabama fans. I tell you what, for Auburn, it's just been, wow. They kept it close with the Georgia Bulldogs. They kept it close with the Alabama Crimson Tide. They could not get it done against New Mexico State as Jerry Kill got out the belt and gave him a spanking. But they do want to end this season with a winning season, folks. They want to end it with a winning season.
Now, I will say, Jackson, Auburn is a 2.5-point favorite. Once again, the SEC team is favored. So that just goes to show by Vegas that Auburn is 2 points better than the Big Ten team. So that just goes to show that they think the SEC is the better conference. But that's neither here nor there. But as you said, Jackson, Maryland is the Jekyll and Hyde of the Big Ten, as you like to say. And it's very true because after Ohio State, they fell off big time. Woof, it was rough. And Auburn, you want to talk about Jekyll and Hyde. They were like, New Mexico State, they ain't going to bring their A game against us. We're the SEC. and then Jerry Kill's like, we're better than that. You forgot. We play real football now. And then Jackson, Auburn could have set the whole dominoes into motion if they just would have covered Isaiah Bond in the back of the end zone. But they didn't, and it cost Auburn, and now they're 6-6, fighting to get their seventh win. But like you said, Jackson, Tua's younger brother, Talia, is playing in this game. It is going to be very interesting. I'm going to take, you know, if Auburn shows up like they did against Alabama, they're going to win this game. But I don't know if I could trust Auburn to do that because Maryland's not Alabama, obviously. But I think I'm going to trust Maryland here. I'm going to go Tulia and that high-powered offense to get it done. I'm going Maryland 27-17 over the Auburn Tigers.
That's so fast, my friend. I'm going to go with the Auburn Tigers on this one. I think it's going to be a great victory by Auburn. I think Maryland's going to end this season on a terrible note. And there's going to be a lot of people asking some questions about Mike Lotzley in the future. Is he the next Dino Babers? That's the question. Because I am not liking what I'm seeing from Mike Lotzley in Maryland. Oh, still, there you are.
Little difficulty there, folks. As we said, we'll get to those games later. Don't worry, Georgia fans. We didn't skip over you. We're not mad at you. Don't worry. Jackson didn't do that on purpose. Don't worry. But anywho, Jackson,
And we're certainly not skipping over Florida State. We're doing that game at a later date. No worries.
Yes, but introduce this one, good buddy.
Oh man, the Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl on Barstool Sports. In Craig Bowles' last game as head coach, as the Wyoming Cowboys go up against the Toledo Rockets, led by Jason Candle. Man, this is going to be a great game right here. This is going to be an underrated game.
Jackson, I need to object, good buddy. I apologize, but Wyoming is a 3-point favorite, and it's on the CW network, so we know what happens to the favorites.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up because in a little bit, I'm going to tell you who I went with.
I mean, here's the thing, Jackson. That just immediately popped out. I apologize for interrupting, but that CW network is haunting to me. I mean, I have nightmares about that. I can't sleep sometimes over that. But anywho, go ahead, good buddy. Go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Toledo had a pretty good season, despite the fact that they lost to Miami in the MAC title game. And they started off the season with a loss against Illinois. That was a heartbreaking loss for Toledo, but Wyoming started off the 2023 season nicely. They basically told Texas Tech, hey, you got a game with us, remember? I know we're not Oregon, but don't be forgetting us, boys. Let me tell you, Wyoming basically showed them real quick who's the boss. And they basically kept it close with Texas until the fourth quarter with a 10-10 tie, but then Texas rattled off 21 straight points against them. Then we see Wyoming having a close one against App State. Then we see Wyoming ending the unbeaten streak of Fresno State. But unfortunately, Wyoming gets spanked by Boise State, lose a tight one to Air Force. They get spanked by UNLV, but they end the regular season with a 2-game winning streak against Hawaii and Nevada. And the question is, can they end Craig Bowles' coaching career on a high note in the Barstool Sports Bowl?
I mean, it's going to be interesting for sure. I'm looking forward to it. I think Toledo, Jason Candle, I know his name's been thrown around a lot for the coaching search. Is this going to play a fact in the game? I don't know. Wyoming, they like you said, they've sprung a couple upsets this year, especially over Texas Tech, because Tech might have been playing a little look ahead to Oregon and Lubbock. Should be a really fun game. But I think in this game here, I think, I think Toledo, they want to bounce back. They've had such a great year. I don't think they want to let it go to waste. And I think they want to get it done for Jason Candle. And if this is possibly his swan song before he takes a better job or a bigger job, I think they can get it done for him. I'm going Toledo 21-20 over Wyoming. And the CW curse continues.
Well, I will say though, I've been kind of wrestling with myself between Toledo and Wyoming. I I think reluctantly I have to go with Toledo, but I'm definitely going to be pulling for Craig Bowl to win his final game as head coach. He loves those outdoors, and I think he's probably going to go fishing a lot. And I don't think he's going to be sitting at home drinking beer, mowing lawns, and watching Grit TV and Me TV. Yelling at Matt Dillon to get the bad guy, Matt. I don't think he's going to be doing that. He's going to be getting out of the house quite a lot. So I'm gonna go with Toledo on this one, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And then Monday, January 1st, obviously you see that game top. We're gonna get that game right there. That's gonna be, we have to save that for dessert, the main event. But also have another game here. Wisconsin against LSU in the Reliance. And in Tampa, Florida, LSU is a 8.5-point favorite. Jackson, what is your early take on this? And what do you think about this matchup? Because obviously you've seen a lot of LSU, especially being an SEC country, and Bama playing them on a traditional year-to-year basis.
Why do I get the feeling this is going to be a repeat of the Citrus Bowl where LSU just spints a depleted team and then everybody's like, oh my God, this is a great win. They're going to be so great in the SEC next year. They're going to win it all. You're not fooling anybody, Brian Kelly. You're not fooling anyone. Bleh.
But I will say, though, Jackson, Jaden Daniels, who won the Heisman, which, by the way, congratulations, Jaden Daniels, on a much-deserved award. I believe he is still playing in this game, so that's going to help a lot. But Jackson, LSU fans need to come to terms. Their defense is bad. It's bad.
It's a disaster. It's horrible. It's putrid. I mean, that defense, it's disgusting. It's dreadful. It's nasty.
Yeah. And I think Wisconsin should be able to take advantage of that. But here's the thing, though. Luke Fickell hasn't completely gotten his offense the way he wants it yet. That's going to be a big-time game changer. But LSU being an 8.5-point favorite, like you said, though, Jackson, it could be because Wisconsin's depleted, a lot of opt-outs, a lot of injuries. And like you said, Jackson, I could see this being like a 52-0 win, and then we'll hear the hype of LSU's going to beat Bama next year, and they're going to go to the SEC championship, and then Brian Kelly's going to win his first natty. We're going to hear all that again. I could see it that way. But LSU's defense is bad, and maybe Wisconsin can take advantage, maybe run the ball on them, get the pass game going, and can maybe sneak out a victory. Maybe. But Jaden Daniels, with his legs and his arm, may just tear that Wisconsin defense to shreds.
Unfortunately, this is going to be an LSU 38-17 victory over Wisconsin. And we're going to hear that hype again. And I mean, again, Jaden Daniels, great QB, bright future ahead for this young man. And I can't wait to see where he's going to get drafted in the 2024 NFL draft. Don't know where yet, but he's going to be tremendous. Maybe he gets drafted by the Minnesota Vikings and he can be that missing piece for that team. Who knows? But as for Wisconsin, they got a bright future ahead of them with Luke Fickle and Phil Longo. I mean, it may not look like it now, but there will be a bright future for Madison, Wisconsin. It's definitely a lot better than where they were with Paul Christ. I can tell you right now, especially that second half of Paul Christ's coaching career at Wisconsin.
I mean, Paul Chris did take Wisconsin to the Big Ten championship game. We can't diminish his name completely. Gotta give
Yeah, but he fell apart afterwards. Like 2018, they were hyped up in the top 5, but then they lost to BYU, and then their winning streak against Minnesota ended that season, so they couldn't get it done.
But Jackson, I agree with you. I think the LSU is going to get another big win here, and the hype train's going to start again for next year. I'm going LSU 34 to 15, 34-15. The LSU Tigers get a big time W.
Well, at least this game's gonna be better. No
Oh,
worries, folks. I mean, it has to be better than LSU, Wisconsin. I mean,
are we sure about that, Jackson? I mean, at, at,
yeah, that Iowa offense is pitiful. It's pitiful, 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 pitiful.
but Jackson, the thing of it is this is the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl in Orlando, but Tennessee is a 6.5 point favorite. Oh, good Lord. Well, we know why. Iowa's offense can't score to save their life. The defense of Iowa is going to need to come through big time, but I don't trust Tennessee either. I mean, Jackson, you got things you're going to say about it. Let me get mine out of the way, and then I'll let you have it, good buddy. I will say this. Say this. Tennessee, we picked you to beat Florida in the swamp. We thought you had it going, and what happened? You let us down again. And Jackson, you called it. You called it the week before. You wouldn't be surprised if Florida wins that game. And what happened? Trevor Etienne went wild nuts all over him. Tennessee is not the same offense that they were last year with Hendon Hooker, Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman. The defense has gotten somewhat better, but Tennessee's very untrustworthy. Iowa's offense can't be trusted. No Cooper DeJean. I don't think he's in this game. He's a big help to the defense, so the defense is going to be a little riddled. But Jackson, I know you got some things to say on this game. Take it away, good buddy.
Well, to your point, Iowa's offense, that it's pitiful, but Tennessee, don't start with me how they do against top 25. I mean, I'm not asking you to beat Bama and Georgia, okay? But you look pitiful against Missouri. And you can't get it done against Gainesville. What is going on? How are you always losing to Florida? I'm supposed to be impressed by your big win against Texas A&M. Oh my god. But we were on CBS. Who cares? Who cares? It's not impressive. It's not Bear Bryant, Texas A&M from the 1950s. It's not Jackie Sherrill, Texas A&M. And it's most certainly not 1939 Texas A&M, where the last time Texas A&M won the Natty. I'm supposed to be impressed by Tennessee, and I'm supposed to look at them as an 8.5 favorite. I'm trying not to get mad over here, but I'm having a hard time with you folks.
Jackson, let it out. We all have those teams that get us mad. But yeah, Tennessee an 8.5 point favorite. And I will say, I did not know who I was going to pick until we literally just hopped on air not too long ago. For those of you, those of you who are watching this as we release it later on, I just figured out who I was going to pick to win. But Jackson, I'll let you pick this game first.
Oh man, why me? Anyway, but I will say this game has a look of first to 20 wins, but I kind of feel like this is going to be a 17-14 victory by the Iowa Hawkeyes. I'm going to go with Iowa on this one. But on the bright side, Brian Ferentz isn't going to be the OC anymore, so that I'm thrilled they won't be the OC for Iowa football
Now,
after.
Jackson, you got Iowa scoring 17 points. You're being very generous. I hope.
It,
I hope.
oh, it's not because that offense. Believe me, it's that defense that's going to get things done. They'll probably do enough to get that offense in the red zone and that special teams.
Jackson, know what, Lee Corso? I'm not going to disrespect you by saying this. This does not deserve a not so fast, but I'm going Tennessee 12-6.
Oh man.
I'm going 12-6. Tennessee wins by the hair of their chinny chin chin.
Oh man. Man, these teams just cannot get done. But I hope for their sake their offenses get better next year. But as I said, the Bowl Mania is officially done, except for the New Year's Six Bowls, which, like my partner in crime has said, we will release those on a future date, and we will be releasing the playoff games on a future date where we give our take on each of them. And it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be fun, and it's going to be a wild ride discussing the 2024 edition of the granddaddy of them all and the 2024 Sugar Bowl between Texas and Washington. Those New Year's Six Bowls, I am looking forward to them, especially that not Ohio State, Penn State Ole Miss game. That'll be fun. But any final thoughts on this, and where can everybody find us exactly?
Just final thoughts. Enjoy the rest of the non-New Year's Six bowls. There's a lot of non-New Year's Six bowls that are going to be fun. The Alamo Bowl, the Citrus Bowl with Iowa, Tennessee. If you love a little defensive showdown, I think you're going to get it. I think LSU, Wisconsin may be competitive for a minute, and then Jaden Daniels is going to have his way. I think, Rutgers, Miami is going to be fun. Yankee Stadium, Fenway Park. Those are going to be some fun venues to watch. But it should be a fun week. But like Jackson and I have both reassure you, we're not skipping over. We're not avoiding nobody. We will give our predictions and takes. We promise you we're not leaving you high and dry. We're not scared to pick them. Don't you worry, people. We will be back, and we will put Jackson on the spot about his Crimson Tide. Don't you worry. We're going to make Jackson feel the burn. But until then,
Disco Inferno.
everybody, if you're watching on Jackson's channel, you can find me over on my channel at Sports Talk with Austin. And you can find me on Twitter, as Jackson has lovely put it up there. I'll be posting videos of mine and Jackson's previews and predictions of mini videos. If you don't want to watch the full thing, make sure I get those up. Me and Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports, we will be doing a special Duke's Mayo preview. It'll be pre-recorded and released the next day. So look forward to that. That, ladies and gentlemen, should be fun. But Jackson, let the people know where they can find you and your stuff, and let them know what you got going on over there. So if they want to come find you on my channel, they can go right on over.
Well, they can most certainly find me on YouTube on at Jackson Johnson 979, where I will have some of the latest episodes of the Jacksonian, including the latest from Friday night with Spencer McLaughlin, the host of Locked On Pac-12, the host of Locked On Ducks, and the announcer for Southern Utah Athletics, where we go over our take on the Pac-12 and the Oregon Ducks and so on and so forth. But if you also would like to see some of the latest updates on some of my latest shows and what I'm going to be running my mouth about in the college football NFL world, you can find me on Twitter at Jatson09960335, and on Instagram and threads.com and .net at Jatson Johnson 543-908. Until next time, this is Jatson Johnson and my partner in crime, Austin Williams. And if you like this content, like, comment, subscribe, click on the notification bell, and we'll be seeing you soon. Stay safe and stay warm. It is cold out.
Go Cards, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas.